Hi everyone. I'm here for another live today. I usually do the lives on Mondays, but yesterday was a bit busy. I'm actually having quite a full-on week, way busier than I usually do. And so I thought I would take my own advice because we were talking about overwhelm in the previous video, and I was talking about boundaries, and this is one of the boundaries that I put for myself sometimes. I just noticed and realized that yesterday was too much with loads to do, so I thought, okay, just push the live to the Tuesday. So this is putting in application what I preach also, and I must say, might have been able to do it, but yes, it would have brought me into a state where I would be, it's like so much to do. So I would rather, today is quieter. I still have quite a bit, but not as much, and I prioritize this over other things too. So here I am on a Tuesday. And I think that next, so a little bit of an announcement also, next week we are having our guest speaker in the group, and it's also going to be on a Tuesday because next week is going to be public holiday on a Monday. So so rather than doing it on the day of a public holiday where I'm not even sure where we are going to be, so I'd rather have scheduled it for the Tuesday where I know it can be planned and everything is going to be according to plan. So we are going to have Debbie in the group next week, and she's going to broach on a topic that we have not really touched on so far, which is the one of blended families. So I'm quite looking forward to this, and I'm hoping that you are too. So let's move on to today's topic, and today I am going to talk about what to do when kids cry to go to school. So here I'm mostly talking about young children, children going to kindergarten, first years of primary school. Usually this is a behavior that we observe when children are in their younger years. And I'm also talking about crying to go to school when it is a recurrent issue. So it's not happening a one-off, like your child is not happy today and he's crying, but then the whole 2 weeks following that he'll be fine and he'll just be happy to go to school. I'm talking about crying to go to school when it becomes an issue, when it's more usual than unusual, when your child has difficulties making this transition between home and being with parents to school and being with peers and with teachers. And this is I wouldn't say that it's like often, but it's not an unusual problem to have, because we are actually dealing with transitions, and transitions are difficult for small children. Some children deal with it way better than others, but still, even for those who deal with it well, it's still a time where there's uncertainty, where it can be tricky. So whenever there is a transition, there is like a potential issues that can come up. And because of that, this is an issue that we meet quite often. And it is a question that I get asked on a regular basis by parents. So when that happens, when it is recurrent, that your child often cries to go to school and doesn't want to go to school and protests, the very first thing that I think any parent should do is to just make sure that your child is safe and secure and well taken care of at the school he's going to. And this, for me, is like the basics. It's just because, I mean, if we go to work or go about our day or get back home and like at the back of our mind we kind of feel that we're not sure that our child is safe, then I mean it will impact on a whole lot of different things. So if your child is crying on a regular basis, you do want to make sure that where he's going, everything is safe and secure, and your child is well taken care of. I do remember when I was working at a local school here, I was pregnant at the time, so there was a lot of talk with my colleagues about pregnancy, giving birth, taking care of children like in the first few years. And one of his colleagues told me the story of when she had her first child and she had secured this place at a nursery and went to visit, and everything was fine. Everything was going like it seemed to be a good reputation. Like when she went, like she talked to the people, and everything seemed to be okay. And then I think 2 days before having to go back to work after her maternity, she needed to drop off some papers and just went there unannounced. And she said to me that the things that she observed when she was not expected to be there, like the way the staff was treating children and the babies and the crying and the whole thing was like so hectic and in a mess that she felt like she could never send her child there. So maybe it might have been that she got there at a bad time. Sometimes these places do get noisy and hectic, but to her it felt like really it was more about the way that the staff was treating the children and stuff. So she decided 2 days before going back to work, like, no, can't send my child there. And she had to make like a whole other plan for her baby, which was of course not easy, but to her child's safety was more important than all the struggles that she had to go through to find a good place for him. So yeah, I do think that it is important, and there's many ways you can do that. You can schedule a visit to the school to talk to people there. You can, as she did, drop by unannounced, although that's not quite, not all schools will accept that, because it does disturb a sort of good ruling. I mean, if every parent just dropped by the school, I can understand it would be quite hectic. But if you are worried, like really worried that something may be going on, then you could also do that. You could talk to other moms that are sending their children at that school to see if you get the same kind of stories. You could talk to the teacher and the staff. This is very important, not in an offensive way or not in a way that is attacking, but just in a curious way, like saying, I've noticed that my child is having trouble getting to the school. Is there anything going on at the moment? Is there anything she doesn't like? Just having a feel for what is going on, and if they are not on the defensive, then they might share maybe something is going on that could be rectified or could be worked on with your child. So it's always important to talk about it and to let them know what you're going through also, and try to go back and forth. You can also, one good thing to do also is to observe what your child is like after you've left the school. I was working with, when I was doing the special needs, I was working with a small, I think he was about 6 or 7, but he has quite a bit of a learning delay. So it was like a 6-7 years old with some quite a big gap of learning delay. And I remember when he was coming, he would cry and cry and cry as long as the parents were there. But then, once the parents were off, he was all fine. He would just go about and do his own things and go about the activities that I had planned. So it really was about this transition, and that child did cry for quite a bit. I mean, it probably took him about 2 months to come to session every week without crying, but during these 2 months, every single time, he would cry until his parents left, and then he would be all fine. So it was really about that transition. So another mom I worked with told me that she actually, because this was a recurrent issue, one day she dropped her daughter off, and then she kind of snuck behind a wall to observe what her child was like while she thought her mom was not there anymore. And she said she was fine. I mean, as long as I had left, she just went about in the classroom, did her thing, and it seemed that she was totally okay. So this can show you that things are actually good, but it's about the transition from home to school that is an issue, and not actually being at school. And then one thing that is very important, if you've been through all that, is to trust your gut feeling about if you feel that the school is safe and secure for your child, or if she's having some emotional difficulty or other difficulty there. So, yeah, gut feeling that if you really feel that something is wrong, then you should listen to it. So that would be, for me, the first part of figuring out what is going on when your child is crying to go to school. 9 times out of 10, I must say, there is nothing wrong with the school, and it's about the transition. Even more than that, I would say, 99% of the time. I mean, really, most of the time when parents come to me and we talk about that, it's not about the school being a bad environment. It's more about that transition between the home and going to school that is difficult for a child. So once you're sure that everything is going fine and you have no worries to have about the time your child spent at school, then it's all a matter of finding out how you can support your child in that transition. So your second step will then be to understand and recognize that as a parent, we also are a component of that transition, and that we can have an impact on it. We can influence the situation. We are not helpless. It's not only our child crying, we also have some say in the matter in the way that we are doing things. And a good way to recognize that is very often the child will cry, for example, when you drop them off, but will not if your partner drops him off. So it kind of means that we have a part to play, or it will be vice versa. When that child I was talking about that was coming to session with me and who cried for 2 months, when his mom would drop him off, it would be hell. I mean, he would literally be sobbing into big, really going into you would have thought that somebody had hurt him. And when his dad would drop him off, he would cry, but then it would be okay. It would be sort of a little bit of crying, and then he would stop. So there was definitely a dynamic that was going on between the mom and him, like the mom dropping him off, rather than the dad dropping him off. So there is often, it is the case that one parent is having some kind of behavior that is impacting the child in their crying. So very often there is some change that we can bring on that will have an impact on the situation. Had I known like this with that child when I was having the session, what we decided is, okay, from now on, it's the dad who is going to bring him and not the mom. And that worked fine. And at that time, that was like 15 years ago, I didn't have the tools that I have today. Because at that time, that's how we dealt with it. And today, I am sure I could have worked with that mom to figure out what was going on with her emotions, with her behavior, so that we could figure out how to help the child make that transition even when she was the one dropping him off. And that actually happened also to me with my son, because, well, not to us as a family, I would say it was not with me, it was more with my partner, with my husband. When he was in kindergarten, it was very difficult for him to actually go to school, and my husband was the one, because I worked from home and my husband was going to work, so he was the one dropping him off every single day, every single morning at the school, and I was the one to go pick him up in the afternoon, so that worked well for us. So, but for often I would hear my husband complain, and that actually it was difficult. The mornings were difficult. I mean, I don't know if he would cry all the time, but it was difficult. He would cling to my husband. He would not let go. He would, going to the classroom and stuff. That was a difficult time for him. So every now and then my husband would complain about that. So one day I said, okay, you know what? Let me come with you and we'll drop him off and I'll see what is going on. So I think one day I had something, or he had to drop me afterwards. So I said, okay, well, that's a perfect occasion. Let me come with you. So I came, didn't do anything else than observe their usual interaction and what they were usually doing. And so my husband got out of the car, gave him his bag. And so I saw like the whole process. And obviously, as he described, it was a difficult time. But then, as my husband came back in the car, I said, did you realize how difficult you're making it for him to leave? And he's like, no, what are you talking about? And actually, because these are sometimes unconscious things that we are doing and we are not aware of them. So I brought it to his awareness how he was, his whole body language was actually holding on to that child. He would, put the bag on him, but then not letting go of the bag. And then he would say bye like 3 or 4 times. And his whole behavior was not letting that child go and rather sort of, and I suppose it also comes from the fact that we want our children to be happy wherever they go. And he was feeling that it was difficult for my son, because he's shy, because he's introverted, to get to that school. So he was also reacting to that and being not wanting to let go. As soon as I made him aware of that, things got much better. It's just a matter of noticing these little things that we do. And then he was able to actually let go and send him in a way that supported my son into going to the school. I'm not saying that it's suddenly got very easy for him to go to school. It was still difficult, but the transition got easier. And it supported my son into sort of getting to school in a better way, in a way that was more fluid and without the crying, without the clinging, without all these things that made it difficult. So one of the things that I would suggest is actually, yes, sort of as you go through that routine of dropping your children to school, if they are crying and clinging, and if that transition is difficult, is to take a step back and actually try and figure out what you are doing that could have an impact on that situation, because we have it in our power to actually be more of a support in those situations. Because a lot of time we just feel helpless and we don't know what to do, but there are things that you could do. Just feeling helpless is not reassuring our children. So things to look for, or if it's difficult for you to just, because you're too much in that situation, you can also ask a friend or ask your partner, your husband, your wife to come with you and to see and to observe what is going on. And maybe you will have an awareness of actually what emotions, what state you are in, what behaviors you are doing that have an impact and that you could become aware of and change little by little. And some of the things that you want to be on the lookout for are, as my husband, as it was the case for my husband, is to not being able to let go and sort of holding on to our children where we should be helping them go. Feeling helpless, as I said, not helping because it's not reassuring, so it's better to be more grounded, safe in our knowledge that they are going to be happy at school and good in their day. Also, sometimes being too detached can be a problem. Like sometimes when we are for some moms, it was the fact that they were like, like, I need to get everybody ready, get this, get this, it was just sort of a matter of getting through the morning routine very quickly, and it was this and that. But then there was no time to connect a little bit with their child as they were dropping them to school. So obviously the child was clingy and needy for that little bit of interaction. So these are the kind of things that you want to look out into your behavior to see how you can impact that situation and just help and support your child into living that transition a little better. And most of the time, I must say, this is an issue that can be resolved very quickly. Most of the cases I've worked with, as soon as we get that awareness, like in a few days, the situation is completely changed and the child can sort of go into a new routine of being more independent and being more in a better state, rather than into the habit that they had to be clingy and to be crying. So it is something that can be very quickly and very easily resolved. But that little awareness of what we are doing and that is contributing to the situation is key to actually changing it. So I hope that helps. And if you have any questions, as usual, about it, you can just put it in the comments and I will answer as usual. And otherwise, you can always send me a message if you have something that you'd want to ask in a more anonymous fashion. There's no worries. Just send me a little message and then I will get back to you. So, oh my gosh, there's like a message coming up here. As usual, also, if you do feel that this can help a friend, a family member, a mom or a dad who is going through that difficult transition with their children, don't hesitate to share with them, do let them know, do invite them to the group, or tell them about the video, and if it can help them, that would be super. Also, if you have any other topics that you would like me to address on a live session, if you have any challenge, any issues that you're going through, do let me know, send me a message, and then I will try to work that into the schedule of lives that I am doing. I also wanted to do like a quick plug before I go about the group coaching program that I'm going through at the moment, because I started the pilot program with a group coaching for mums 3 months ago. So we've had about 5 to 6 calls now, and I'm really enjoying it. It's great. We are going really deep on some topics. I am loving it, and next week this week actually, we are going to be talking about power struggles, which is quite a big one too, and we are going to go deep on that. So in the event that some of you would be interested in joining us for that group coaching program, do send me a message, and then we can chat about it and see if it is a good fit for you too. I would certainly would love to have you with us in that group coaching program. So that's it for today. I am looking forward to next week with Debbie, and I hope that you are all going to have a great week. And I'll see you as usual in the group, in the comments and in the post. And have a nice week. Bye.